Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video on the channel. It's been a few days without videos. Of course, the post-World Cup depression has hit, but the videos do not stop. And with the Premier League season starting in just a few days, I thought, why not look at some of the contenders in the Premier League this season? Go deeper into what these teams have done in this transfer window, where they might look going into this new season, and really just analyze who is going to be that real team that takes Arsenal all the way. If you guys are new members, welcome. If you're returning members to the channel, welcome back. If you like the videos you're seeing and you enjoy the content, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hype the videos, algorithm. That is the only way this channel can grow, is through your help and your support. So please, if you enjoy the stuff you're seeing, support the channel. It's free. So today's video is going to be about Liverpool. I'm going to make subsequent videos. I was thinking about compressing every single team, being the 5 teams in the Big 6, as they call them, aside from Arsenal, of course, the Premier League champions. But I thought it would make more sense to make each of them their own video. And these videos will come out over the course of the next few days. I can't guarantee the timeline on when those videos will come out, but I do guarantee you they will come out. I will be traveling, so do not be surprised if their timeline is not as consistent, but I will do my best to get those videos out to you guys. It's a consistent theme throughout all the teams we're going to talk about, being Liverpool, Chelsea, Man United, Manchester City, and Tottenham. And I think it's just that element of uncertainty going into this season. I think there's a wide variance of where all 5 of these teams could finish this season, whether it be the introduction of new managers. Manchester City have a new manager. Manchester United, not a new manager, but a manager that came in halfway through last season. This is his first full season. Tottenham, new manager. Chelsea, new manager. And Liverpool likewise. And Liverpool's manager, some people would argue, is probably the best out of the 5, being Andoni Iraola. Of course, formerly managed Rayo Vallecano as well as Bournemouth. We know what Andoni Iraola is all about. We know the type of manager he is. We know the style of football he plays. Intense, very chaotic, but there is an element of control to it. And there were a lot of positives. We saw both at Rayo Vallecano, being a Barcelona fan and a La Liga watcher, I knew how good that Rayo Vallecano team was. I think the 2 teams he's played for in these last 2 tenures that he's had have fitted the way he wants to play football to a T. And I think him climbing to this new level at Liverpool is a similar way to how Rayo Vallecano and Bournemouth approach games. It's a bit chaotic. It's very intense. It's very aggressive. It's on the front foot. But it is going to be an adaptation period for Andoni Iraola. I think there are a lot of positives to take away from the way he plays football. Of course, as I said, I look at a game last season. Bournemouth, in my opinion, one of the most exciting teams to watch in the league. They finished in the Europa League spots, and they will be playing European football because of Andoni Iraola. Of course, other players have to do with that as well. But Iraola showed that he had the ability to develop players. You look at the multitude of players who left the club and went on to bigger and better things at some of the biggest clubs in Europe because of Andoni Iraola's development. You look at the magnitude and the level that Bournemouth were playing at, going away to the eventual champions Arsenal and beating them 2-1 in their own stadium, in a performance that if you genuinely took away the kits of both sides, you would believe Arsenal were the team that were winning the game. Arsenal were the team that was Bournemouth on the day. And the razzmatazz and the brilliance and the energy that his teams play with, it's genuinely infectious. So going to a team like Liverpool, there's definitely a lot of positives. But I think one thing that you need to keep in mind is the scaling factor that comes into any manager or any player going to that next level. Because it's not a coincidence that you see a lot of players and managers do really well at a certain level. But the minute they start to upscale the hierarchy of football or the hierarchy of European sports, you start to see that deterioration in their output. And I think a lot of things we saw from Iraola at Bournemouth point to negatives that could rear their head again during his time at Liverpool. I look at the fatigue and the injuries that a lot of his players suffered at Bournemouth. There were periods last season where Andoni Iraola literally was picking the same 11 week in, week out. There were moments where he was playing midfielders at right back, when he was playing wingers at striker, because he had so many injuries to contend with. And of course, that is a positive in its own right, because the fact that he was still able to get out results despite the amount of players that he didn't have available is a testament to his brilliance as a manager. But at the same time, you come to a team like Liverpool, a football club, an institution that plays in every single competition. This is a football club that represents itself, that holds itself accountable in the Champions League. This is a football club that prides itself on its European dominance. The days of Kenny Dalglish, the days of Ian Rush, the days of Steven Gerrard. the days of Xabi Alonso, the nights under the lights at Anfield, Rafa Benitez. This club prides itself on that. And you're playing those sort of games, included with the Premier League, included with the glory of the FA Cup, included with the not too razzmatazz trophy that is the Carabao Cup. You are now contending on 4 fronts, and Liverpool is a football club that's addicted to winning. They will not contend with throwing away certain competitions. They will believe that they can win all 4. Whether they will, that's something we'll have to wait and find out. But will he be able to upscale that intense, chaotic, high-pressing, front-footed football to Liverpool when you're playing this many games with a squad of players that's very different from the squad you had before? Not to even talk about the egos that he's going to have to manage. But I do believe that Liverpool is an institution that absolutely respects the role that is the manager of Liverpool. Whether you respect the man that's in the position at the moment or was in the position with Arne Slot or with Jurgen Klopp, you respected the position itself. And I think the players will know that and the fans will know that as well. But it's definitely going to be difficult for Andoni Iraola. I don't think it'll be smooth sailing. I think also the fact of being a bigger team now, right? That's something that a lot of people need to consider when you're a manager and when you're upscaling in the hierarchy of football. When you go from a team like Rayo Vallecano, who are expected to sit back majority of the time, you move to a team like Bournemouth that's a bit more ambitious. They're looking to spend a bit more money. They're investing in the club, investing in the stadium, investing in infrastructure. There's a different style of football. And then you upscale again to Liverpool. Now you're playing against teams expecting to respect you. You're coming up against teams that are sitting in a low block from minute 1. You're coming up against teams that are not giving you as much space to play in as, say, Bournemouth would get if they were to play one of the big teams or one of the smaller teams for that matter. So these are all things to consider. You even look at the periods last season, the pressure that comes with being the Liverpool manager. You look at Arne Slot, the guy won a goddamn league title, and he got sacked last season. Andoni Iraola last season, if I remember correctly, there was a period where I don't think Bournemouth won a game in 10 games. I think it was about 9 to 12 games where they didn't win a single game in the Premier League or in all competitions. And nobody said a thing. Of course, there were some Bournemouth fans who were saying Andoni Iraola should be sacked and he's not doing well right now and the team looks lost and they probably need to explore someone else. But you didn't hear that from the mass media. You didn't hear that from the journalists in The Sun. You didn't hear that from the countless number of influencers online. You never heard that. You never heard that narrative because Bournemouth are not in your face. Bournemouth are not in the headlines. Bournemouth don't represent the fabric of English football, all due respect. Liverpool do. So will you be able to contend with that sort of pressure week in, week out? Will you be able to contend with that expectation? Will you be able to contend with an increased number of games? Will you be able to contend with the egos that come with representing Liverpool Football Club? We'll have to wait and see. But of course, in Liverpool, it's not just the manager that you need to contend with. It's not just the manager that you need to consider coming into this season that, in my opinion, could prompt a whole host of variety and a huge variance in where Liverpool could finish this season. I think you also need to look at some of the players. I look at some of the players that Liverpool signed last season. I look at some of the players that have left Liverpool this season. People like Mohamed Salah, people like Andy Robertson, players who represented the fabric of Liverpool, players who knew what it meant to play in front of that Anfield faithful year in, year out. This is off the back of losing Jurgen Klopp already. You still have a few of those players in the spine of that team. Trent Alexander-Arnold left last season as well. So there are definitely holes in this team. But you do look at some of the players from last season who perhaps didn't. They flattered to deceive. Is it flattered to deceive? Is that the saying? I don't even know. Yeah. Flattered to deceive. Is that the right terminology I'm looking for? I don't think so. They were players who didn't really show as the level that we probably expect based on the money that was signed. They were signed for, right? Players like Hugo Ekitike, who started the season really well, but numbers-wise wasn't doing as well as you'd probably hope. Of course, suffered that terrible Achilles injury towards the end of the season that ruled him out of the World Cup. You'll be hoping that he can come back next season and really stake a claim to be that number 9. The main number 9 that they actually spent, I believe it was the transfer record fee for from Newcastle, Alexander Isak, who came into the team, went through that entire process of not playing with Newcastle in preseason, came into Liverpool with no fitness whatsoever, and then subsequently had to build fitness going into the season, got his leg snapped by Van de Ven, and then his season was pretty much done from there. Couldn't really build a head of steam, couldn't really build any real momentum, and as a striker, you need that sort of momentum. So they'll be hoping that he can rediscover that form at Newcastle when he was doing this to everybody. And Alexander Isak was looking like the best striker in the league. Then you look at a player like Florian Wirtz, who, in my opinion, I've said it before, He is absolute dynamite. Florian Wirtz is dynamite. And if he's able to show that level that we saw under Xabi Alonso, that level we saw at Leverkusen, that level we saw in the Bundesliga, in the Champions League, in the Europa League, Liverpool have a player on their hands. But the question is, will they be able to find that player? And that's what I mean again by the variance that this team could hold, because in a season where Virgil van Dijk goes out and plays at an elite level, of course, he's getting to the tail end of his career, but if he continues to show that quality that we've known he's had for years, Liverpool could do something. But if age starts to catch up with him, Liverpool could really suffer in the defensive areas. Alisson, likewise. And those three players I just mentioned as well, Florian Wirtz, Ekitike, and Isak, if they show their best level, if they come back from injury in all their cases, Liverpool could be a force to be reckoned with. But if they continue to show the levels that they showed last season, Liverpool could really struggle. And it continues moving into the midfield. Gravenberch, a player who looked like he fixed the number 6 position that Liverpool were struggling to rectify, struggling to find a solution after Fabinho left. It looked like Gravenberch was that solution, but last year he looked like he was blowing gas for majority of the season. McAllister too, a player who was incredible in that title-winning season, didn't look up to it last year. And it's actually quite funny because at the World Cup, he looked much improved. So they would be hoping that they can find that Argentinian McAllister as opposed to the Liverpool McAllister they saw last year. Dominic Szoboszlai was one of the few redeeming factors in my opinion. Ibrahim Konate is now gone. Jeremy Frimpong, of course, came in last season alongside Milos Kerkez. I thought Kerkez grew into the season. And with Andoni Iraola coming in, a manager he's familiar with, you'd expect that he will go to that next level. Jeremy Frimpong, I've said it many times on this channel, I don't like players like Jeremy Frimpong. I don't believe they add anything to a football team. He's not a good right winger. He's not a good right back. You have to play him as a right wing back. But will Andoni Iraola play a back 5 or a back 3? I don't think so. Of course, there are a lot of holes in this team, as I mentioned before. I don't think they've addressed a lot of the areas in this team that they need to address. They've, of course, signed Victor Munoz. They've signed Jeremy Jacquet. And they're in the market to possibly buy Bradley Barcola. But as I said before, when you lose a player like Mohamed Salah, a player who is the fabric of the football club, and not only does he have the values of Liverpool, but he used to give you guaranteed goals. Generally, I think it got to a point that we were underestimating what Mohamed Salah was bringing to a team like that. And of course, that previous iteration of Liverpool was more centered on the wingers being your primary goal scorers, with Roberto Firmino being that creator. But now with two world-class or borderline world-class strikers in Alexander Isak and Hugo Ekitike, could the team be more veered towards those strikers? But despite that, I still think they haven't done enough to try and replace Mohamed Salah in the wing areas. I still think if you're relying on Cody Gakpo, you're not going to get that far. Rio Ngamoa, of course, showed promise last season, but then his minutes started to curtail towards the end, and he didn't really get that chance. You'd expect Iraola to give him a better chance this season. But I still think they need a bit more X factor in that attacking area of the field, particularly on the wings. I think they desperately need a midfielder. I think Gravenberch is good, and Curtis Jones and McAllister are all great players. But I still think you need that real elder statesman. Maybe not elder statesman in terms of age, maybe not elder statesman in terms of experience, but a player that you look at and you say, oh, okay, Liverpool's midfield is serious. I'm looking at the Declan Rices of the world. I'm looking at the Rodris of the world. I'm looking at the Pedri Gonzalez's of the world, the Vitinhas, the João Neves's. Can you go and get a player like that? We'll have to wait and see. And in the defensive areas, Van Dijk is holding this defense by the tip of his finger. This entire Liverpool defense is make or break on Virgil van Dijk, honestly. Because, of course, this year they lost Ibrahim Konate, as I mentioned. You signed Jeremy Jacquet, who is a young center-back coming into the Premier League, coming to Liverpool from the French League. There's a lot of expectation around him, especially with the amount of money they spent. Would you expect him to dive straight in and be incredible from the jump? Liverpool fans would be hoping that. But you can't put all your eggs into the Jeremy Jacquet basket, especially at the age that he's at. You look at a player like Lenny Yoro, a similar profile, of course, from the French League as well. He's had moments of welcome to the league, buddy. So he's going to grow into his position. He's going to grow into the shirt, and he's going to grow into his role at Liverpool. But it's going to take time. And Liverpool need a player for the now. Of course, they've signed Ronald Araujo on a loan transfer. God, you answer prayers. Took him on a loan, taking all his salary, taking him off of Barcelona's hands. I can wipe him off, and hopefully they enjoy him. Hopefully he plays well, and we can get a nice 50, 60 million transfer fee. But in all jokes aside, I don't think Ronald Araujo is a great center back. He lacks a lot of the fundamentals that you need in a Barcelona center back, particularly his ball playing ability. Ronald Araujo has been terrible at ball playing since he came through the academy, and he's never improved at it. But being in the Premier League, you probably don't need to have that great of ball playing ability. He's very physical, he's very fast, so he can probably provide a lot of good attributes to this Premier League side in Liverpool, because the Premier League is very physical, everything is very quick. You probably don't need to be as great upstairs to play in the Premier League as a center back. So maybe Araujo will offer them something they don't have. But I look at some of their center back options, as I said, you have an aging Van Dijk, you have an uncertain Ronald Araujo, you have a Jeremy Jacquet who's still young and growing, and you have a Leone who, of course, is a prospect, but just suffered an ACL injury and is just recovering and coming back from that. So, and then, of course, you have Joe Gomez, who is never fit. So Liverpool don't have many great center backs to really rely upon. And it seems like it's just going to be another season where Virgil van Dijk is holding the hand of whoever is playing alongside him. And I know that is usually going to be the case because Virgil van Dijk is just that good. Virgil van Dijk is the epicenter of the Liverpool defense. But I think when you get to this age and this stage of your career, you need somebody that will take a little bit of the load off of you. And I think players like Araujo, players like Jeremy Frimpong, players like Milos Kerkez, they don't take off the load. They actually add on to it. So once again, there's a lot of variance in what we could see. Milos Kerkez could go to that next level with Iraola coming in. Jeremy Frimpong might be found an actual role in this team. Virgil van Dijk might roll back the years to 2021. Ronald Araujo might fit like a glove in the Premier League. But these are all ifs. None of these are certainties, and we'll have to wait and see what happens in that area of the field as well as all areas of the field for Liverpool. Of course, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. What do you make of Liverpool's prospects coming into the season? Do you think they're going to be title contenders? Do you think they're actually going to win the Premier League title? Or are they just Champions League hopefuls? Let me know all those thoughts. What did you think about Andoni Iraola? What do you think about him as a manager coming into Liverpool? What do you think about the players and what they could do? Who do you think Liverpool should actually sign? And what do you make of the signings that they've made so far? But as I said, let me know all that and a whole lot more down in the comment section. Next video coming out will be Chelsea, so don't go too far. I'll be back very soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and goodbye.